Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to the GS4 orientation session. In today's session, we'll be discussing कि ethics का paper जो है, how can we go about preparing for it? What are the key ideas? What are the basic approaches that you need to take for solving case studies? How do you prepare for the theory sections? What are the sources? We'll cover all of these things and we'll take some examples, like always with all sessions, that we'll do some live practical things in order to get a better sense of कि भाई किस तरीके से ethics के पेपर में आप मार्क्स स्कोर कर सकते हैं. But before we begin, one thing I want to make amply and completely clear to each and every one of you कि ethics का जो पेपर है, don't think of it as a dry paper because a lot of people tend to do that. Dry paper का क्या मतलब है यहाँ पे कि आप मुझे टेक्निकल आंसर देने की कोशिश कर रहे हो या आप मुझे बताने की कोशिश कर रहे हो कि यूटिलिटेरियन पर्सपेक्टिव से यहाँ क्या होगा कि या फिर कांतियन पर्सपेक्टिव या डिओंटोलॉजिकल पर्सपेक्टिव से यहाँ क्या होगा. But that is not what ethics paper is about. Ethics paper is more about the practical problems that you will face as an administrator. For example, as an IAS officer, let's say you become one IAS officer and you are sitting in your district. You have a ton of things on your list, right? Because as the chief administrative of CEO, executive officer of the district, you have a lot of things to do. But then an old woman comes into your office and asks you for something, just कि भाई ये काम करना है, कैसे करना है, क्या करना है. How do you prioritize? क्योंकि अगर आप ये भी सोच सकते हैं उसमें कि भाई if you know answer one of these summons or one of these special requests, a lot more will start coming in. Why? Because the lady will go back and tell others कि हाँ जी मतलब इन्होंने हमारा काम करवा दिया, which is great. Why? Because you're supposed to get that work done. So how do you balance these challenges? How do you focus on the big picture? How do you focus on the little details? And at the same time, how do you balance professional versus personal responsibilities? One of the easiest ways that I found in doing this is कि आप अपने ऊपर लेके देखो इस चीज को कि कोई भी केस स्टडी अगर आती है तो what would you have done? Don't just have a very dry perspective of deontological ethics ये कहते हैं कि utilitarian perspective से perspective है ठीक है, बट उस पर्सपेक्टिव को आप किस तरीके से इस्तेमाल कर पा रहे हो in resolving practical problems. That is what the ethics paper is all about. So I hope that part is clear to everyone. If any doubts, we will discuss them further. But is the basic point clear over here? कि practical ethics की बात करनी है हमें यहाँ पे. It is a lot more about practical ethics rather than theoretical ethics. So how many of you have heard of this thing called the trolley problem? I'll enable chat. Right, so how many of you have heard of the trolley problem? Great, so some of you have heard of it, some of you have not heard of it. I'll give you a very brief overview. The trolley problem is a hypothetical problem that there is a trolley track like this and there is an alternative trolley track like this. तो दिक्कत क्या है, ये problem क्यों है कि let's say there are 3 people who are tied on this trolley over here. There is a trolley that is coming from here, a very rudimentary representation of it. ये ट्रॉली यहाँ पे चल रही है, आप खड़े हैं यहाँ as an individual and आपके पास है एक lever. If you use this lever, what you can do is you can redirect this trolley on this side track. But the problem is यहाँ पर भी एक इंसान बंधा हुआ है, यहाँ पर भी एक इंसान मारा जा सकता है, right? So in such a case, this being you, this person being you, there is no मतलब कोई पोस्ट नहीं है, कोई रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, आप बस एक bystander हैं, meaning you are somebody who is seeing these things happen. You are not responsible for the trolley. You are not the lineman. You are not anybody in charge. You are just somebody who happens to be there. And you happen to be next to this. We can make it slightly better. Next to this lever, which will allow this trolley to move here. This is, let's say, track 2. This is track 1. Now, the problem statement is, how many of you would pull the lever and shift the trolley from track 1 to track 2? Meaning, you know that somebody's gonna die either way. Do you kill one person in order to save 3? What do? How many of you would pull the lever? Yes or no? Okay, Narendra has given his answer. What about the others? Okay. So Abhishek, Narendra, both of you would kill the 3 people on the first track? Because that is what you're saying. That is what not pulling the lever means. Right? Others are saying they will pull the lever. They will kill the 1 person and not kill the 3. See, this is what is a hypothetical ethics problem. This is an ethical dilemma, but it is a hypothetical ethical dilemma. Why am I saying this is hypothetical? Because it is artificially limited. Artificially limited ka simple sa matlab. Now, I'm not getting into which is the better thing to do over here. Track 1, do you let 3 people die, or do you kill 1 person voluntarily in order to save the 3 people? Now, this is something for you to find out, figure out for yourself. What I want to explain with this example for the ethics paper, this is what you need to focus on right now. So, this is a hypothetically created example which is artificially limited. Artificially limited ka kya matlab hai ki they are trying very hard to get your answer to one very specific problem. Would you kill someone to save someone? Right? That is the core problem over here. Do you kill someone? Do you take responsibility of killing someone in order to save others? Whereas the alternative would be that you let 3 people die knowing that you could have done something. So this is asking for your take on a very, very limited and specific problem, which is not the case in administration. So in administration, this is never going to be the case. So this hypothetical problem and the hypothetical solutions to these problems are good if you know. If you know this, great. But you need to think outside the box. Right? So some of the alternative solutions that people on the internet suggest for this problem is that they would try to derail this trolley completely. That, I will push the trolley off. I will put some, roadblock over here. I will break this lever, jam it into the trolley, do something, or maybe even free these people. Did anybody of you think about freeing the people? Again, if you had thought about it, that's great, but still, I had not constructed the problem completely for you. This is one of the conditions given in the problem that you can't free the people fast enough. So, but still, since some of you did not even think about that option or possibility, this is exactly what I wanted to tell you with this entire example, that in GS4 ethics paper, please do not artificially limit yourself. You are not solving a problem in isolation. Case studies will give you certain conditions they will give you certain conditions, right? You can't step outside the bounds of that condition. कि ऐसा नहीं बोलेगा कि now कि suddenly I will become Superman and fly everybody off the cliff. Flood situation hai, and what do? I become Shri Krishna and I lift up the mountain. You can't do that. But you can very well think about alternative solutions, not specifically mentioned in the case. Solutions only. You do not step out of the bounds of the role within the case. Right. So is this point clear to everyone? What is an artificial problem? And in GS4 ethics, you are not to artificially limit yourself. Is this distinction clear? Great. So now that we have amply discussed this, let's talk about what the actual syllabus mentions. This is the main syllabus. And the syllabus itself says the paper will include questions to test the candidate's attitude and approach relating to integrity, probity in public life, and problem-solving approach. Problem-solving approach in various issues and conflicts faced by him in dealing with society. So exactly, look at what these problems are. They're just testing you. How would you respond to certain situations as a civil servant? Right. So always have a problem-solving mindset while going into the ethics paper. Do not just think of that, I'm solving a question, I just have to write the options. Don't think of that way. Think about what are the other potential solutions. What else can be done over here? Can I, get some other agency to help me out over here? What can be done? Think outside the box. Push yourself. And if you do this, this will not only help you with improving your score drastically for the GS4 ethics paper. This will also have spillover benefits for you in other papers. Spillover benefits कैसे रहेंगे? कि अब बहुत सारे लोग, I'm sure a lot of you have written tests by now, right? Although I think अभी जो चैट में लोग आए हैं उन्होंने बहुत सारे टेस्ट नहीं लिखे हैं. Suprit say I've had a chat, so others do write tests, and Vedart has written. बाकी लोग क्या कर रहे हैं? So please do write tests, and the main test series is exactly for this. Even if you're in the daily answer writing, then daily answer writing is fine. Well, keep practicing. The entire point is कि spillover effects में a lot of you face problems with conclusion. Yes or no? That I don't know how to write good conclusions. How many of you have faced this problem? So this is why when you're thinking out of the box, when you're thinking about alternative solutions, when you're thinking about 100 other things, कि भाई और क्या किया जा सकता है, यहाँ पे conclusions become slightly easier because you don't limit yourself to the question. That is the entire idea of way forward. हम questions में way forward क्यों लिखते हैं? Because we want to portray to the examiner that we're not limited by the demand of the question itself. We can think outside of the box. This is exactly what you're supposed to be doing in GS4 as well. Right. So again, practical more than idealistic and theoretical. Do not be theoretical in the ethics paper. The more practical you are, the better you will score. And I have a very simple question for you. What is morality? Do you know? Do you understand what is morality? Yes or no? But please do write in the chat section, comment box. Who can tell me what is morality in as simple words as possible? Great, Nitin has. Nitigya, Yashasvi, Akhilesh, Shweta, a lot of you have given answers, which is great because answer yahan pe bhi given hai. This is exactly what morality is. Morality is telling you or a guide to what is right and wrong. Morality is simply a guide to action. Guide to action. We want to do good and avoid bad, right? Simply put, this is morality. So how do you decide what is good and what is bad? This is where the personal values come in. Some of you had written what is morality means personal values. So morality is not directly values. Morality requires you to have values, right? One of the conditions in order to have a clear morality is to have clear values. Morality is not equal to values though. Morality is dependent on values. तो बहुत ही सिंपल सी चीज है ना कि मोरालिटी और वैल्यूज में क्या डिफरेंस है? Is the morality and values का difference clear to everyone? Because see, these are the sorts of things, if you are clear on, it will be absolutely useful for you during the exam. So this is what you have to focus on. Ethical conduct more than knowledge of ethics. Right? कि question आएगा आपको कि you're cheating with your friends in the exam, or your friend is caught cheating in the exam. How many of you have cheated during college exams? Yes or no? And like, I'm being very honest, I've cheated in some of them. Right, so everybody has seen that, done that. There are some, great souls among us who have not cheated in college tests and exams, which is great. The entire point here is that when now you're asked a case which involves this sort of a situation, are you not aware of what is going on over here? Why are you then giving me, theoretical answers of, cheating is morally wrong, cheating is this, that, XYZ, when you actually tried and help your friend? Is not the friendship something that you value over, your morality of not cheating in exams? Yes or no? We value the friendship. Actually, I did the other thing. Friendship over not cheating in exams. Everybody does that. Everybody values friendship over this. Yes or no? So my simple question then becomes, why are you afraid of putting that in words? Is that not the case, right? We're supposed to be objective. We're supposed to be unbiased. We're supposed to be, fair. But we're human beings after all. You're human beings, right? And as human beings, I will always value my family over everybody else. Everybody is a human being. All of you who are sitting in class live, or if you're watching a recording, all of you are human beings. All of your lives have value. But for me, my family's lives value much, much more than I value your lives. Well, your lives also have absolute value. But that entire idea of, all lives are equal is not true, at least for me. Is that the case with you? Yes or no? So this is exactly what I'm talking about when I say practical ethics. And this is what you need to learn to put into words. कि सब ये agree कर रहे हैं ना कि my family values to me much more than I value कि who else is dying, where else is dying. I care about whether my family is safe. I care about whether my family is fed. I care about, whether my family is doing well. I care about that absolutely first. After that, everything else comes. So this is what you need to learn to put into words. This is what I mention when I say practical ethics. So in case you are unable to put your values into words, in the case when you're not able to put your values into words, because I'm sure that has happened with a lot of people. होता है कि नहीं होता कि you want to say something but you are in doubt whether you should say this or not, which is the cheating example that we took, that we've all cheated but nobody wants to say that out on paper, right? Have you faced this problem? Right, so in such a case, whenever you are in doubt, the constitution will be your guide. Just like a question has come up in the Q&A section, Narendra has asked, if we directly write that I will value friendship over morality, again, not friendship over morality, friendship over, not cheating. Morality nahi hoga, but friendship over not cheating. So as a civil servant, that is not the appropriate value to have. Hence, the constitution is your guide. I'm not saying that you go and write that, I will cheat and I will be corrupt and all those things. I'm not saying that. I'm saying be practical. That in some situations, there are certain biases that human beings have innately. I'm not saying I will, in order to save my family, I'll kill and murder anyone. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that in a tough situation, I will prefer to save my family first. That's what I'm saying. Right? There's a way of putting it. I'm not saying I will kill you in order to save my family. I'm saying in a tough situation, I will save these people first. There's a way of putting it. And in case you are in doubt about whether I can write this or not, go with constitutional values. Go with constitutional. What are constitutional values? Who can tell me two constitutional values? Anybody? Right, great. So this is where you need to have read the preamble. Liberty, equality, fraternity. ये तो direct preamble में given है ना? These are the constitutional values that we have. Justice. All of these are values directly given to us in the constitution. In case you are in doubt about what needs to be done, at least you should be amply clear about what is the meaning of liberty, what is the meaning of equality. If you've not thought about these things, think about them. What does equality mean to you? Right? So I want you to take out a pen and a paper. You will have I'll give you 2 minutes. And in those 2 minutes, I want you to write about what does this quote mean to you? Just a framework of what is the actual meaning of this. So let us begin. Your time starts now. If you've not found a pen and paper, ideally you should have had it, but anyhow. And time's up. So please stop writing. And how many of you were able to come up with something about what this quote means to you? Great. So please share in chat. Siddharth has a great answer over here. He gave some examples directly. Right, so Siddharth's examples are Hitler and Vijay Mallya. And Rashmi has given the example of Ratan Tata, Robert Oppenheimer, Osama bin Laden, the meaning of real education. So, right, you got something out of it. And this is the great part about ethics paper, that there are 100 different examples that you can use. There are 100 different things that you can talk about, because everybody looks at the exact same thing from different angles and perspectives. And so Sonali has shared a very, very pertinent example which has social implications. A doctor performing prenatal sex determination, right? So that is exactly what is happening. That doctor has been educated in the mind. They're a doctor, right? But not in morals. Hence, they're enabling sex selection, which is absolutely horrible at a societal level. So practically, जब भी आप ethics की बात करोगे, whenever you're giving me practical examples, you know, this is what it means to have an educated person who is not educated in morals, and how are they a menace? If you give me that example, half the job is done. Now you just have to write maybe 120 more words explaining what that few words were, right? Ek example diya aapne कि Sonali has given a very six word example, a doctor performing sex determination test. Now she needs to write 120 words to explain that, and that'll be it. She has solved this question very beautifully. And this is what you need to do in ethics papers. Think about an example first. What do I get out of this? Can I think of some real life example which I can map onto this? If you can do that, you will have a good time in the ethics paper. Now, coming to sources. So there is the Justice course by Michael Sandel. Even if, despite everything that I've said, that you need to be practical, you still want some theory, because obviously everybody wants some theory from time to time. There's the Justice course by Michael Sandel. It's available on YouTube. Michael Sandel is one of the most preeminent philosophers who is currently teaching. He is a professor at Harvard, and this is one of his most popular courses. It's a very short course, I think a total less than 10 hours total. And it's very beautiful, very absolutely detailed. You can check it out. If you can do this course, all your theoretical needs will be met. Now, coming to practice terms, this is a list I'll share. You need to do 3 things with this. Define in your own words. For example, we just saw a couple of slides ago, what are the basic values of the Indian Constitution? We saw liberty, equality, fraternity, justice. You need to define things like this in your own words. What does justice mean to you? What does equality mean to you? What is liberty according to you? You need to define them in your own words. And then, just like we saw in the previous quote question, you need to build your examples. Build your examples का मतलब क्या है यहाँ पे? ऐसा नहीं कि मैं, I am thinking about every potential situation, everything. You can't think about everything. We know this because preparing for UPSC means that you are going to let go of 10 to 15% of things because they can't be covered reasonably. So what you need to do is at least build examples of these basic things. जिन words को आप define कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे, the words that you're defining over here, at least build examples of them, right? Define liberty in your own words and then give me an example of what is liberty according to you. If you can also represent that diagrammatically, key example, define transparency. What is the meaning of transparency according to you? Right? And if you can show me that in a diagram, absolutely great, because these basic words, it may seem like a very simple thing to do. It's a very, very simple thing to do. Everybody has heard of these words: duty, honor, responsibility. But I did this test on Twitter a couple of weeks ago where I asked people, what is the difference between duty and responsibility? Very few people were able to, get to the point. So this is the practical practice that you need to start doing for your ethics GS4 preparation. I'll give you a list of these terms. It's also available on the website if you want to go and check it out over there. I'll just show it to you. So it's available on the website over here. You go to resources and mains notes. Mains notes mein, where is it? The ethics glossary. So ethics glossary over here. You have these ethical words. You need to build some understanding of these words. What do principles mean to you? What is the meaning of reputation according to you? What is transparency according to you? What is faith according to you? And for example, integrity, we've also shared some examples over here that integrity, when thought, speech, and action are in sync, right? When you're thinking, saying, and talking about the same things, that means that you're a person of integrity. For example, Gandhiji said what he meant and followed through with his actions on Satyagraha. He continuously kept talking about, Satya Ahimsa, Satya Ahimsa, Satya Ahimsa. I cannot know what he's thinking about, but he's talking about this thing constantly and he's putting it into action. So there is that. Similarly, there are other examples: responsibility, duty, compassion, respect. All of these examples you can check out and ideally use them as a base to build your own examples. Don't just be dependent on कि अच्छा ये बने बनाए मिल गए हैं और अब हम कुछ नहीं करेंगे. If you just depend on these examples as is, if you don't make your own examples, you will have a hard time recalling these in the exam. And if you want more theory, you can read the psychology 11th and 12th NCRTs for topics like attitude, behavior, EI, EQ. And G. Subbarao for thinkers and Indian philosophers. Again, this is for things like, what were Gandhiji's basic principles, basic ideas, Satya Ahimsa ke alawa, and what were the thoughts of Swami Vivekananda. So some basics you need to know. Even if you don't know, maybe 1 or 2 questions will come. You can skip that. You can check it out. This is a give and take that you need to do for yourself. As is, UPSC ka syllabus is quite vast. Emotional intelligence, EI is emotional intelligence, emotional quotient. That is the idea. Psychology ka books will have some things on this. Attitude, behavior, all of these things are relevant for your GS4 syllabus. Now, case study frameworks. Again, so case study frameworks are also given over here, right, on the website. So they're given up top, right? There are 4 or 5 basic frameworks that you can use in a case study. First is the stakeholder approach. You write down who are the people involved, what are their motives, what are the conflicts between them. Then a second approach is ethical dilemmas in the situation. Like if we talk about very practical ideas over here. So for example, in the trolley problem that we did, who are the stakeholders? The stakeholders are the people on the track, people on first track, people on the person on the second track, and you. There are 3 stakeholders. Ethical dilemmas की अगर हम बात करें, right? So ethical dilemma है, would you kill someone to save others, right? Or would you let people die in order to avoid involvement? That is the ethical dilemma over here. Values-based approach, right? कि values-based approach क्या है? कि is this a bad problem, or कि how are we deciding on this? Do we decide on the basis of the inherent value of lives, or we decide on the basis of utilitarian principles? Ki killing 1 and saving 3, cost benefit. What are the values that you are using in order to come to a conclusion? And then you can also do fact value mapping. So these are basic ideas. You don't need to write these headings. Again, these are some frameworks that you can think about in order to make it easier for you to analyze the case studies, right? Solve case studies का मतलब यहाँ पे ये है कि these will help you analyze the case studies. This is not something that you have to absolutely write and talk about these are the stakeholders, this is what's happening, because the case study will also give you questions. Because I'll show you, we have some case studies for discussion in today's session. Right. Where is the case study? Right. So the case study itself is giving you a question, which is, what would you have done in such a situation? Very simple. So see, such a brilliant case study. I like this case study a lot. Why? Because this is a very practical thing. You're aspiring to become an IAS officer, and you've cleared various stages of the exam and now been selected for personal interview. On the day of the interview, on the way to the venue, you saw an accident where a mother and child who happened to be your relatives, or affinity bhi dal di. This is that entire point of, bystander you might have let go, but now this is a relative who are badly injured. They need immediate help. What would you have done in such a situation? Very simple, right? Okay. What would you have done in such a situation? So over here, you don't have to write down who are the stakeholders involved. I am the stakeholder, UPSC is the stakeholder, like relatives and her child is the stakeholder, and the person who did the accident, something. This is not what you're supposed to do. This is something to help you understand, what is going on over here. Because once I know that UPSC is also a stakeholder in this, then I can think about, can I ask UPSC for leniency? Right? Because this is a genuine concern. All that I would need is, letter from the doctor that yes, they needed immediate help, and this person came in and helped them for this reason. He might have missed something. Please show leniency. This is a very genuine thing that can be done, because life happens. You don't plan for everything. So you can call an ambulance is fine, but for us, that's the idea. Ki they're relatives. They're not even bystanders. Right? Ambulance aaye nahi aaye, aap apne relative ko chhod gaye aa gaye, and for some reason, let's say that you don't even clear the interview. Fir to bhai kya hoga aapke saath? So it's not the consequences of कि अगर interview clear नहीं हुआ तो क्या होगा, and even not even the consequences of अगर clear हो गया तो क्या ये भूल जाएंगे? नहीं भूलेंगे. This is something that will remain with you. इतना आपके relatives को भी समझना चाहिए, और इतना आपको भी समझना चाहिए कि इंसान की जिंदगी की value interview से ज्यादा है. It is like right to life. It's one of the fundamental rights given in the Constitution itself. So as an IAS officer, if you do not value life, you think that your interview is more important than somebody else's life, then how are you supposed to safeguard other people's right to life? Right? Think about this very simply. This is the sort of calculation. This is something that you can think, Narendra, maybe one of the perspectives that can be taken as if you were injured. Would you want the other person to help? That, think about as if you were injured. This will allow you to develop some empathy. आपको चोट लगी है, you are lying there on the road dying, and you see your relative going across and he's like, नहीं मेरा तो UPSC का interview है, आप बाद में. Is that, you would be absolutely furious. You would be absolutely furious. And not only would you be furious at that person as you lay dying, the entire family would be furious. Nobody will understand. You're thinking that people will understand ki UPSC ka interview. Nobody will understand this, because once a life is lost, it's lost. You have another attempt. Right? So even in this question, you can think about what are the possible potential things that can be done. You can call an ambulance. You can stay with them till the ambulance comes. You can drop them to the hospital. You can personally, a number of things can be done. But in the end, what needs to happen is that you need to justify your actions. Practical justification चाहिए. यहाँ पे हमें utilitarianism की बात करी आपने इस case study में, तो you will not get a lot of marks, because it's a very personal situation. It's a very practical situation that can happen to anyone. And that is what, that is what you're supposed to have the emotional depth to handle. Right? So is this part clear to everyone? यूपीएससी के इंटरव्यू में जा रहे हो, अगर कोई रिलेटिव का एक्सीडेंट होता है तो उसको हॉस्पिटल छोड़ के आना. Don't think twice. Right. So Anusha has asked a very, very pertinent question here. How will we structure this answer? Which do not have stakeholder approach. Why do you not have stakeholder approach over here? You have the stakeholder approach. The stakeholder approach is a very easy way to think about how to structure this answer, right? आपको लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है कि these are the 4-5 stakeholders. You can think about them. Who is a stakeholder? You are a stakeholder. You are the person who's faced with that choice, right? So obviously you are the stakeholder. Second person or second group is your relatives and her child, mother and child. They are also a stakeholder. They are injured. They are lying on the road. The third is the institution or group that is creating the pressure or the dilemma for you. That is UPSC. So UPSC is also a stakeholder over here. And once you have this frame in your head, you can then talk about कि ये देखो, ये वाली चीज आपको हमेशा याद रखनी है कि UPSC might seem like कि भाई अच्छा नहीं, बस मतलब नहीं सुनेंगे, हट जाओ, नहीं बात करनी. This is a genuine concern. This is a genuine problem. And in such cases, UPSC will listen, right? Because also consider the fact that you've made it to the interview. This is not in prelims. Prelims में नहीं सुनते वो. Prelims में obviously it's a very, very different thing, but that's also said in the exam that you've made it to the interview. You've already proven your worth to UPSC as one of the potential recruits. And if at that moment you show the emotional depth and resilience to say, this was something that was much more important for me. These are my family members. These are people who needed immediate help. And it was my duty and even my responsibility to help them out. I may be late to the interview, but if you feel that I should not be given another chance at the interview, then your process for selection is wrong. Well, obviously, that's a very strong statement and stand to take right in the answer, but that's something to think about. Don't you think there will be an absolute furor? मतलब आपको नहीं लगता कि ये मीडिया में बात उखड़ जाएगी, फैल जाएगी, भैया ये क्या कर रहे हो? Give this person another chance. Do you think that will happen? Yes or no? Right? Because that is the rational thing to happen. You will save a life. And you should be very clear about this. So, coming back to the slides, and यहाँ पे अब यहाँ बहुत सारे मैंने प्रैक्टिकल एथिक्स के एग्जांपल्स वगैरह बात करी थी कि भाई आपको वर्ड्स के बीच में रिलेशन देखते हुए चलना है. What is fairness and what is objectivity? What is the difference between them? So Siddharth has asked a question. Why will the UPSC make an exception for a single individual? Because the single individual is the one who faced the exceptional problem. Exception क्या होता है? It's something out of the ordinary, right? Exception बना रहा है UPSC कि हाँ जी, this person will be allowed to give an interview later. Why? Because the exception happened in front of them, wherein they saw an accident and they helped out, and they have the legal paperwork to prove it. Paperwork होना बहुत जरूरी है, but paperwork is absolutely essential. That you have to have like letter from the hospital, from the doctor, telling that these people needed actual immediate attention. कि ऐसा नहीं हो आपने मतलब कुछ भी बना के और फिर मतलब चले गए, क्या रे नहीं उनको तो जुकाम हो गया तो हमें बुरा लगा इसलिए हम घर चले गए उनके, आप इंटरव्यू बाद में ले लीजिएगा. This is not what will happen. But if they needed absolutely immediate attention, there's blood loss, there is like potential loss of life involved. This is something that can be done. And Abhishek has gone the extreme way wherein he has asked, we can also approach the High Court for appeal if UPSC doesn't comply. इतने में तो इंटरव्यू खत्म हो जाएगा, प्रोसेस हो लेगा, हाई कोर्ट नहीं चलता है इसमें. This is a simple matter of raising it and escalating it to the right authorities. UPSC is also made up of people. UPSC is not a robot. They're also people. They will understand if your cause and concerns are genuine. Again, the genuineness is the key factor over here. So I want you to think about these kinds of terms, responsible and trustworthy. How are they similar? What is the degree of overlap between, responsible and trustworthy? Can a person be responsible and not trustworthy? Yes or no? How can you be responsible and not trustworthy? That happens. Right. So again, very good, Himanshu, people in the drugs business. But again, responsible but not trustworthy happens in particular circumstances related to particular values. When there is a value mismatch, then you can have somebody who's responsible but not trustworthy. You know that this person will get the job done, but you don't want that job done. But when there is a match of values, right, so that is also good. Professionally responsible, but you can also be personally responsible. Personally, you're also trustworthy. Personally, you're also responsible. The general idea is if the values are involved and there is an overlap of values, then there will be a high degree of overlap between responsibility and trustworthiness. Now, how many of you had never thought about these things before? Great. So that is the entire point. These are the kinds of things that you want to think about, because this is the kind of problems that you will actually face while in service. That you have a subordinate or a superior who is great, who is honest, who is sincere, but who is not fair. Well, can that be a possibility? Somebody who's honest and sincere, but not fair. So these are the things, if you think about them, it will be very easy for you to solve questions in the ethics paper. And this is why we've given these lists. It's also available on the website. Just go and check out that ethics glossary that we have. You'll have antonyms too. Compassion ka opposite kya hai? Indifference. Why are they different? Why are they opposites? Is there still a degree of overlap between compassion and indifference? Can there be any overlap between compassion and indifference? Think about these things. See, I'm not giving you straight answers, because if I give you straight answers, you will just mug them up and forget them. And that will not help you when you're giving the exam. So that is not the purpose of this discussion. The purpose of this discussion is to start you in the process of writing good answers. Writing good answers comes from having thought clearly about what are your ethical values. What is your morality? If you're in doubt, like we said, when in doubt, stick to the Constitution. When in doubt, stick to the Constitution. Best. So this example, already we've discussed ki Gandhiji said what he meant and followed through with actions. It inspires trust and faith in your ability, right? Ki when you say that you're going to do something and then you do it, now I have a trust in you. Like, for example, a lot of people come and say that, I will do this, that, XYZ, ki, just tell me what needs to be done and I'll do it. I say, okay, these are the things that need to be done. Very few people come back and say that, okay, I did these things. Like, for example, Himanshu has been one of those people, or at least that's what he tells me. He goes back, he does the work that is asked, and then says, okay, these are the problems that I faced here. I have trust in that ability that, if I give him a task, it will be done. And then I also have trust in the fact, or I also have some faith in the fact that he might clear. Why? Because he's doing the work. Why? Because I trust that when he tells me that this is done, then that is done. That is the idea. Trust, faith, responsibility, integrity, they're all interrelated. What exactly is the interrelation? What is the overlap? Is there an overlap? Is there not an overlap? What are the conditions when there is no overlap? Think about these things. The more you think about them, the clearer they will become, and the easier it will be for you to answer questions. Right. So you can keep building examples like this. So callousness is like disregard for others. Somebody is coming to you on a red light, they're asking money, madad kar do, help kar do, they're begging for something, and you just like throw them away. That is callousness. That is absolute callousness. कि भाई मतलब मुझे नहीं फर्क पड़ता है, ये गिर जाए, मर जाए, लग जाए, दफा हो जाओ मेरी शक्ल से. So that is a complete disregard for that person. They are also an individual. Should that be done? Should you ever do it? Now, how many of you have seen that, sometimes it happens when you go to restaurants, there are people who are absolutely shouting at the staff. The people who are coming to serve you food, they're absolutely just, they're shouting at them. Have you seen such people? Or are you such people? That is also a question that needs to be asked. But again, if you've seen some such people, what is the value? What is the thing that they are disregarding? Have you ever thought about that? Do these people not have patience? Do these people are they maybe lazy कि भाई मतलब वेट ही नहीं करना है इतना, और are they unfair कि भाई ये तो वेटर है, इसको तो कुछ भी बोल सकते हैं. मतलब what is it exactly that these people are disregarding as a value? Empathy is one of them. What else? Right? So it's never one thing. It's never one thing. Like we just discussed, empathy and compassion, there is an overlap. How much is the overlap? Human dignity, right? So a lot of things. So that is the idea. Think about these things. The more you think about these things, what is empathy versus what is sympathy? What is probity? How do you be inclusive? Right? What are the examples of these things? The more you think about this, the more clear your thoughts are on this, the better your answers will be in ethics. And now we come to diagrams. Diagrams may, if you can make very simple diagrams, like we just defined integrity as, when thought, speech, and action are in sync. So this was one of my efforts at, putting that into a diagram. When thought, speech, and action are in sync. Right. So there is an equivalence function that is happening over here. Thoughts and speech are in sync, speech and action are in sync, action and thoughts are in sync. So this individual has integrity. Right. So you can build diagrams like this. For example, RTI. RTI means citizen empowerment. It means participative government. It means transparency. It means accountability. Transparency and accountability together mean probity. Citizen empowerment and participative government together mean good governance. So RTI is a function of probity and good governance. Right. ओवरलैप भी दिखा दिया हमने, और हमने डिफरेंट वैल्यूज भी दिखा दी. बहुत सारी चीजें हमने सिर्फ इस एक छोटे से डायग्राम में कर दी. But how can we make this diagram? We need to think about what are these values. See, why am I again and again telling you to think about these things, and why am I not just giving you a list of 100 diagrams that you can go and mug up? Because the question that is asked may not require you to use this diagram. The question that is asked will determine what is it exactly that you need to make a diagram on. You can practice 10, 20, 50, 100 diagrams, fine. You can mug up some of them. But it may so happen that you have to create an entirely new diagram right in the exam. And if you've never practiced creating a diagram on your own, you will never be able to recreate it in the exam. If you just think that I've read these 100 diagrams and now I'm prepared, no, you're not. You can read 100 diagrams and still be unable to recreate them in the exam. So, like for example, this is why I tried so many different things with the RTI. That RTI also means openness and accountability. Openness and accountability is again probity. Transparency, accountability. Transparency is almost same as openness, right? So while I'm building these diagrams, I'm coming across so many synonyms and antonyms ki bhai kaise istemal kare, how do I use them? And that's the idea. You need to do this for yourself. Start doing this. For example, again, not integrity, attitude and values. These social beliefs, religious beliefs, cultural beliefs, rational beliefs, they all form your values. And your values then determine your attitude. Right? What is your attitude? Attitude is your outlook to things. Ki, am I somebody who is upbeat about life? Do I look on the very positive side of things? Why do I keep looking on the positive side of things? Because my value is to believe in the eventual goodness. कि भाई आज नहीं तो कल अच्छा होगा, अभी नहीं तो कम. मतलब you know the Hindu philosophy of कि ये सब लिखा हुआ है, अच्छा ही होगा, you know, सब drama, everything, all those kinds of things. So they come from my religious beliefs. It could also be my social belief that, you know, I have been raised in such an environment where giving up is not allowed. Or it could be just my cultural belief, right? Because I'm sure everybody has noticed that the difference in culture means a wide and drastic difference in values. Has that been noticed? Like, for example, even very, very simply, even if we talk even within the Hindi belt, UP culture is very different from Haryana culture. Yes or no? Is that the case? Yes or no? UP culture very different from Haryana culture. Those of you who know about it. So, because of those two different cultures, we will, a person from Haryana and a person from UP will have different values. Right? For example, one of the values that Haryana culture teaches you is blunt, being blunt. Then, you know, in Haryana, we'll say it on your face. Like, we don't care if you feel nice or bad, like we'll say it to your face. But on the other hand, in UP, they'll put it very nicely. You will not even know that, you know, okay, they're insulting you. They'll say it so nicely that it's like 2 days later that you'll finally come to realize that you were insulted. So that is the difference between UP and Haryana culture. Well, that's a very, very crude difference. Obviously, please don't take it as the entirety of the culture, but that is the idea. That cultural difference will translate into a value, the value of bluntness, or the value of being soft spoken, or the value of, like, you know, being reading. So these are the sorts of things that you need to explore. You need to keep building examples. Ready-made stuff जो है आपका वो यहाँ पे मिल रहा है. We've discussed this. So those of you who've not seen it yet, you can go out, check out ethics, glossary. Right. And case studies ka approach we also discussed. So fact value mapping was the only approach that we did not discuss. Fact value mapping is sort of a last resort approach that you've not got a lot of things left. And what you're trying to do is, for example, in the case study that we discussed, that, you know, you're going for the interview and your relative has had an accident. So what is the fact? Fact is accident. Right? Accidents are bad. So this is the fact, this is the value. Right? So fact is somebody is injured. Right? Helping an injured person is good. Is it or is it not? Yes or no? So fact value mapping is basically a very, very atomized approach to understanding what can be done, what should be done in a case study. So you just write down the facts and you map them onto values, whether this is a good value, whether this is a bad value, and then obviously your answer will lead you to going towards the good values. Ideally, you don't want to go towards the bad values in the exam. So that's the idea for today's session. In case studies, a very, very good idea is to discuss with friends and family, particularly if you have a business family or your parents are in government service, or in general also, but especially if your parents are in business or in government service, definitely discuss case studies with them. Definitely discuss case studies with them because it helps. These people have had very practical experiences of how the world works and in what situation what can be done. And having these multiple perspectives, why? Because you will be thinking from a very theoretical angle that, what is the utilitarian thing to do, what is the Kantian thing to do, what is the, etc., 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 multiple things to do. They will tell you very practical things to do because they don't know theory. They don't care about theory. They care about what can be done and what is the best solution over here. So I would highly recommend that you discuss cases with friends and family, especially your parents, because they will give you a wider perspective on how things work in society, right? So that's the end of today's session for GS4. I hope. Okay, any doubts? We'll take them up now. So Akhilesh has asked, what should be the timing for answer in ethics? So देखो, timing is again a very, very challenging aspect of the ethics paper. Challenging क्यों है? क्योंकि जो cases होते हैं, they are about 120 to 130 marks, and the theory questions are about 110 to 120 marks. अब दिक्कत ये आती है कि केस स्टडीज काफी ज्यादा टाइम खा जाती है, and personally what I found in 4 mains is that of 180 minutes generally I would take something like 100 minutes just for the case studies. जो केस स्टडीज हैं उसमें आराम से मतलब आपको 1.5 घंटा पौने 2 घंटा you can give, because even though the ethics का theory वाला part जो है, there will be multiple questions over there which you're not very sure about क्या है कैसे नहीं है, तो you're any which way going to leave something over there. But if you spend a lot of time in the first section, then you do not have enough time to think properly in the second half, and case studies require you to actually think. You can't just write random things in the case because it's a very, very particular situation that has been given to you. कि भाई अब ये बताया था ना आपको कि IAS का इंटरव्यू देने जा रहे हो, relative को चोट लग गई है, what do you do? It's a very specific situation, and so your answer needs to be also very specific. So I think about 100 minutes for the ethics theory case studies, sorry, and 80 minutes for case studies should be a good idea. अब उसमें exactly आप divide करके देख सकते हो कितना क्या कैसे, because I think there are about 11 or 12 questions in the first part. Right, so any other questions, any other queries, doubts? If not, we'll end the session here, and thank you all for joining. Rest, whenever you write a paper, please, you've got, and तो ये वाली चीज तो any which way we'll take up the question, but whenever you've got whenever you've written a paper, please book a discussion session with me or Shashank, because like it helps. We'll also get a sense of what are you doing well, what are you not doing well. Obviously आपको paper पे comments तो मिल ही रहे हैं, just have a chat with us as well. How should we use current affairs for ethics paper? We have so many examples from ethics, right? don't give political examples for ethics paper, but you can give a number of other examples. Some of the examples can be, there's a Commonwealth Games chal raha hai. So sports, Siddhartha said. So there are doping scandals, there are, there is a lot of motivation over there. There are a lot of heartbreaks and failures, and there are a lot of successes. So all of these things we're learning, right? So for example, I think jo hamare wrestler the Sushil Kumar. How many of you know about Sushil Kumar? I think I've talked about him in some other session as well. Right. So Sushil Kumar is a great case study. Like that individual had almost everything that you could ask for. He had 2 Olympic medals, and like he's one of the most respected wrestlers. Like, Chhattisgarh Stadium, which is considered the home turf of a lot of great athletes in India. He was considered the king of Chhattisgarh. And then, like, in a fit of madness, in a fit of rage, he went and like, did something absolutely unthinkable. So that's a case study in ethics. That's how you can use current affairs examples. Exactly. So Himanshu has given a very good comparison over here, that you can compare Sushil Kumar with, PV Sindhu. PV Sindhu is absolutely a model Olympian or a model sports person. And Sushil Kumar also used to be that, but then obviously those things happened. But we see PV Sindhu as like the epitome of hard work, that this woman is like absolutely crushing it in her field. She's constantly improving, she's constantly learning, she's constantly growing, and like, inspiring so many other people. So that's how you can use current affairs examples. So Suprit has asked, which color of pen do we use? Suprit, for this, I would say that, download the PYQ of GS1, 2, 3, 4. Read the instructions given on the first page. On the first page, you are given very detailed instructions of what kind of pens you can use, whether you can use pencil, whether you can use colors, what you can use, not do. Because those are the only instructions that UPSC will give. They will not tell you, this shade of ink needs to be used, that needs to be used, XYZ. They will simply say, कि ABC चीज है, पढ़ के आओ, let me know once you've read it, we'll discuss. Right, so how to practice for case studies. So practice sources, if you want, very simply put, for the last 10 years, go through all the PYQs. Every year you have 7 case studies, you have 70 case studies ka repository right there. Go through those 70 at least. Then once you've done the 70, you come to me and I'll ask me, what more, because we'll also be sharing some case studies with you. Obviously, ethics paper will be coming up soon. And other than that, if you're following the daily answer writing schedule, we're also sharing a couple of, case studies there. So first source for case studies is PYQs. Always go through PYQs. And once you've gone through the PYQs, then if you want additional material, you can check out the daily answer writing on the website. I'll just show it to you. यहाँ पे आपको जाना है resources, GS daily answer writing, and over here I think the GS4 wala week hai, which will be week 1 was here, then we had week 2, we had week 3, we had week 4. Somewhere over here we'll get case studies, right? So you can use these for practicing. So we'll end the session here. Thank you all for joining, and have a great day.